Hola, ¿qué tal amigos? Yo soy Toy, un yucateco en Dinamarca. Me da muchísimo gusto saludarles en este nuevo video. Y bueno, en este nuevo video tengo pues una invitadaza de lujo. Así es, una invitadaza que ya la están ustedes viendo aquí en el video, está aquí conmigo. Y queremos hablar con ella porque ella es Laura, o Laura como decimos en México. Ella es Laura, ella es una chica danesa que está viviendo pues en México. Y que la semana pasada, si no estoy equivocado, se hizo súper viral en las redes sociales porque posteó un video de un platillo que a nosotros los mexicanos nos gusta mucho. Claro que sí, y por supuesto cuando ella lo vio en México, pues pensó, esto se parece mucho a algo que comemos en Dinamarca. Así es, vamos a hacer la entrevista, ella habla bien español, pero vamos a hacer la entrevista en inglés. Para que no quede ninguna duda de lo que estamos diciendo para toda la gente que nos escuchen y para que la gente de México y la gente de Dinamarca pues puedan pues ver el video, no solamente allá en México. Entonces, I want to say welcome to Laura. How are you, Laura?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, Laura. I want to say thank you very much for accepting this interview. I'm told, as I said in Spanish. Yeah, no, please. I'm actually very grateful that you could accept and also make some time in your schedule. And yes, your busy schedule, of course. And well, I would like to talk to you, of course, about this phenomenon, right? That you went viral in Mexico. But before we go straight to the point, I would like to ask you a couple of things because this YouTube channel is about myself as a Mexican, as a guy from Yucatan, living in Denmark, sharing my experiences, also funny experiences that I had here in Denmark, specifically here in the capital, in Copenhagen. And yeah. I think that we can relate in many aspects because now you're living in Mexico, and of course you have experienced a lot of things that you would say, oh my God, they have for example, let's put a commercial or some advertisement here. When you saw our bread, Bimbo, what do you think?
Why is there sugar in all of the bread?
Yes, why
all the bread tastes like sugar?
Why we cannot eat a regular normal breakfast, right? Just a plain bread with cheese.
Why is sugar the default? Like if I go to ask for my horchata and I say, can you put a quarter of the sugar in? They look at me like I'm crazy and they're like, you know, you're allowed to get the sugar, right? And I'm like, yeah, no.
But well, Laura, please tell me, how long have you been in Mexico?
So I've been in Mexico for 1 year and 10 months now. So in March will be my 2-year anniversary.
Oh my God, 2 years anniversary. And you moved to Mexico because you wanted to give it a try, how is to live in Mexico, or how you end up in Mexico?
No, it's the craziest story how I ended up here because I had a job and a home, and actually I also had a boyfriend back home. Yeah. And I chose to do 3 months travel in Mexico because COVID was shutting down the entire world, and someone was like, hey, you know Mexico's open? And I was like,
it was the only country.
So yes. I took my little bag, I had my little traveler's bag, I had no money, so I started volunteering like in hostels to have a place to sleep. And all of a sudden they canceled my plane ticket home. And at that point I was like, what if I just like stayed? And so I literally canceled everything back home. I broke up with my boyfriend, I moved out of my apartment, I quit my job, and I was living out of my little bag and just volunteering, traveling around. I had no plans of my future. I was 26 years old, really no idea what I was doing, but just enjoying and learning about the country. And I was passing through a city when I met my, well, now husband. I mean, he's really fast.
Is he Mexican?
He's Mexican, and I met this guy and he was the greatest. And after some months we moved in together, and he's like, you know, whenever you want to go back to Denmark, you go. And I was like, yeah, sure. And that's 1 year and 10 months ago, so I guess
But we can say that you have visited a lot of cities in Mexico. Mexico City, can you mention?
So I've been traveling. When I looked at it, I was like, I traveled all around Mexico. Then I looked at a map and I was like, I have been nowhere. But I have been in Mexico City. I've been in Oaxaca, Chiapas, all of Chiapas, my favorite place. All over Yucatan, Quintana Roo, and Campeche, that area, Veracruz as well. My next plan is Puebla and Guadalajara. That's on my list. Yes. But I need to go up north. Like, there's so much up north, and I'm just actually now I live in the state of Tabasco, and people are very surprised when I say I live here because they're like, "But that's an oil state. Like, there's nothing." But my husband is in that type of job, so that's where I live. It's very
warm.
In Villahermosa, yeah. It's very warm here. There's zero tourists, like literally zero tourists. I think I'm the only one.
But you know what? Actually, before we started this interview, Laura and I, we were talking about the difference about the youth in terms of education. Because, for example, when we finish high school in Mexico, 18, 17 years old, we go straight to the university. And then when you are 22, you already have a bachelor degree, and then you have to study the master. And what I like about the Danish system is that at a certain point, you can choose if you want to have a 1 year off, right? Where you can travel, you can do like a voluntary work in another country or in your own country. And I believe that helped the youth to choose wisely which way you want to go, right? Isn't it?
A lot of my friends, because I was 25, 26 when I finished my bachelor degree in teaching, and I started working as a teacher. So I was actually like in a job, like a real grown-up job. But I was like, I'm not really ready to do this. So I'm just going to take a short travel to Mexico and just clear my head and then come back and like pick up where I left off. And now I've taken a completely different route. But the only thing that's made that possible is because I live here in Mexico. And as you might relate to it, it's interesting for people to see a foreign person looking at their country with new eyes. So that was sort of like my, could I do something with this? Could I do some media with that? And so I started doing TikTok and I started doing Instagram and stuff, and then that took off, and all of a sudden it wasn't my bachelor degree giving me work anymore.
Yes.
It's media.
Yes, it happened. Are you from Sjælland in Denmark?
Yes, I'm from Kalundborg, if you know.
Kalundborg, yes, of course. I'm very bad at the maps. I'm still use Google.
But it's a really easy way to remember it. If you're in Copenhagen and you're going home, you're drunk in the city, you go on the train and you fall asleep on the train, then you end up on the other side of Sjælland and you wake up at the end station, you're in Kalundborg.
Okay, so that's easy. And actually, we're going to put also here the video, the map for the people that they are watching this YouTube. Yeah. And well, Laura, so this has been your experience. And for example, what do you think? To learn Spanish is easier than learning Danish? Please tell us.
Sí, claro que sí. Danish is one of the hardest languages to learn, and to sit here and speak to you and learn that you are actually speaking Danish is impressive. I mean, very impressive.
Thank you very much.
Spanish is the grammar for me is very difficult because it changes in time, and it also changes according to the person and how many people, and so my brain is going like it's doing a big puzzle when I'm trying to put together. So my vocabulary has a lot of mistakes, but I understand pretty much everything people say to me in Spanish, and I also speak it, but not that good.
No, but that's great. I mean, for all those that are watching, before we start this interview, actually we talk a little bit in Spanish and also in Danish. And we were talking about that Spanish in Mexico is kind of easier because even though you don't pronounce it very well, the people can understand what you're trying to say and they help you, right? And they say, yo querer cerveza. I want a beer. Okay, well, yo quiero una cerveza. But she said in another way, no. But then if you go to the bar here and you have a very thick foreign accent and you say, they will say, yeah. Like, which is, I'm going to put the translation here for those. This is real story time, right? This person, this colleague, she was learning Danish, and she was so proud. She was so bright, and she went to this bar in Copenhagen, and she went to the bar and said to the bartender, "Hey, jeg vil gerne have en øl." And the bartender said, "Yeah, well," which means yes, what? No, sí, ¿qué? Because in the way that she was saying, "Jeg vil gerne have en øl," which is, I would like to have a beer, the bartender understood that she was saying, "I would like to have something." Jeg vil gerne have en øl.
No, this is the problem with Denmark. Like, everyone in Denmark speaks English. Like, everyone, because they know no one speaks Danish. So I myself used to work as a bartender in Denmark for like 4 years to get myself through like my university. And when people came up and they obviously didn't speak Danish, but they tried to speak to me in Danish, I would just start speaking to them in English, be like, "Hey, don't worry, we can just do it in English." But they really want to. They really want to. And you should give them a chance to, because they want to practice.
Yes, please be patient. Danes that are watching this, please be patient with us when we try to. But Laura, now it was really nice talking to you. Nice that you are enjoying Mexico. I hope you like our food. It's spicy. Sometimes it can be a lot of
you know what?
grease.
Back home in Denmark, I'm known as like the spice queen. Like, I can eat spicy food.
Oh.
Everyone's like, "Yeah, put it in for." Then I came to Mexico and I have been humbled. I'm very, very humbled, because I sit there like, "Es pica? Es pica? No pica? Oh, okay." And then they put some in my taco and I'm like, "Oh."
Si pica, si pica.
And if you check my TikTok, there are a lot of videos of me just crying because I've eaten some habanero, aguachile, and I'm just dying. So, but I love the food here. I absolutely love. I actually came to Mexico as a vegan. That went out the window after like a week. No mames, give me some pastor, give me some bistec.
Carnita, chicharrón, which is something that we are going to talk about actually. And you know what? You need to visit also Yucatan. And you have to visit Merida, because we have one of the most spicy chilies, which is habanero. In Tabasco, they have it also, of course. But you should come around to Yucatan. We will, of course, welcome you.
You know what? Exactly a month from now, I'm going to Yucatan to greet 8 Danes, because my entire family is coming here to travel. For the first time, my entire Danish family, I'll be dragging them around Yucatan, being like, "Come, let me show you the ropes." So we'll be there, and I hope to do a lot of content and a lot of like reactions to the food and places. And I'm gonna take them all around, like Isla Mujeres, Holbox, Merida, Campeche.
So people from Yucatan, if you see Laura, please be nice and welcome her, as we are nice with people that enjoy, of course, the cenotes and everything.
All of it. If you see 8 very blonde, confused people, then you know it's us.
But Laura, now let's talk about what happened with the video of the chicharron. Tell me.
Let's do it. Okay, so I went to a family, it was after New Year, so I went to family dinner thing, and we were having leftover food. And my brother-in-law, he is studying in Monterrey. So we're here in Tabasco, and he's like, "Oh, I brought this thing for you, Lau, you have to try it." And he just puts a plate down in front of me of this chicharron ramos. And I tasted it, and it was like, flashback to my childhood. And I was like, wait a second. And I told everyone, like, "Hey, this is our national dish. Like, we eat this with potatoes and with the parsley sauce." And everyone was kind of like, "Yeah, but you also eat salmon in Denmark." And I'm like, no. This is our national dish. And you can look it up. Everyone's been asking me how to say it. And I was like, "Oh, it's stegt flæsk med persillesauce." And then they're like, "Okay." But it's basically chicharron, potatoes, parsley sauce, and you can have it with something pickled. So I made this video, and I made a reaction video to my own video saying, "Hey, this is our national dish, how funny." One day later, I am all over the news here in big Spanish newspapers, Milenio, but also I think like 10 other newspapers. But
you are everywhere, Laura. When we Google you, you're everywhere. Yes.
I know. But the thing is, the funny thing was that when I read the newspapers, and I read Spanish fine, the title said, "Are we lucky? Danish TikToker says that the normal chicharron here is a luxury dish for the rich people in Denmark." And I was like,
"What?"
that was never said in my video. And I also have to say, humbly, in Denmark, things are not like the rich people can afford this and the poor people can't afford. Like in Denmark, things are very much like this. Everyone can eat everything, especially pork, because there are more pigs in Denmark than there are people. And buying pork is actually sometimes cheaper in Denmark than it is here in Mexico. And this dish in particular, I grew up with this dish and my family was like below middle class. And we ate this all the time. It's super cheap and super easy to make. And if you go check my TikTok, I also made it recently. But the news thought different. And I don't know if that's bad journalism or bad translation, or if they just wanted it to sound like that.
I think when you mentioned this is the national Danish dish, probably they took it like a, for example, yes, and maybe in Mexico we have this, of course, our national dish is tacos, but you can eat tacos every corner, right, around the city. But probably they thought that it was only a dish that you eat it in a special occasion. That it might be, for example, in Christmas, most of people they eat also fläskesteg, right? And alcohol and everything. And but I think you went viral, and everyone has been contacting you, and they're very interested in your social media. Actually, we're gonna put it here in the description of this video, and also we're gonna put some screenshots about all the things that are happening. So, but you took it very well, right?
Yeah, and I mean the comments have been overall very positive, because if you compliment some food from here, people are like, "You're Mexican." All of Monterey was like, "We have adopted you," and I'm like, "I'm married, like I'm already adopted." But the funny thing was that a lot of people took it as like, "Wow, we're royals here in Mexico. We eat fancy food. We eat the fancy food in Denmark." Yeah. And I almost didn't have the heart to tell people like, "No." but if you want to believe it, then yes. But it is just a common dish, and it's, in my opinion, I have to say, I don't really like it. I like chicharron, but I like it much more in a taco with some aguacate and some limon, some salsa. Like it much better like that than the Danish version. Yes. Don't tell my mom.
You prefer chicharron in a taco than chicharron with potatoes and the sauce, the gravy on it, right?
Danish food, as you know, traditional Danish food is meat, is potatoes, and sauce.
Yes. And Laura, and actually, when I saw your video, I felt also identified with that, because as a foreigner in Denmark, especially from Mexico, where the food is kind of different. And then when I started to try, one of the tips for those Latinos or Mexicans that moved to Denmark, when I didn't know the food, I always put small portions. Like, you take a little bit of this, and then, do you want more? No, I'm fine, thank you. Because if I don't like it, because in Mexico, also one thing that we have is that if we don't like something, we don't say it, and we eat it. Exactly. In Denmark, you are very open to say, no, thank you, I don't want, thank you very much, I'm fine, thank you very much. But in Mexico, because we are also very dramatic, we say, oh my God, you don't love me, you don't want to eat my ice cream,
Especially in like family gatherings.
Yes. Oh my God, your girlfriend doesn't want to try. I made these empanadas for her and she doesn't even, But that's how the culture, right?
With like my father-in-law, and he was making like carne asada, and we came in, we're like, oh, we're not that hungry. And he just stood there with the plate like,
boom.
And I was like, oh, no, sí, por favor. I sat down, like, it's so good.
And actually, these both fläskesteg and the fläskesvärd, also that we call it, no? It's like the chicharron, right?
Yeah, crunchy chicharron. We both have the Nordic and the southern kind of the chicharron.
And actually, when I saw this food in Denmark, and I thought the same thing. I thought, oh my God, this is chicharron. Well, it was my favorite dish, and said, oh, Toy likes the Danish food. I was thinking to myself, because it tastes like Mexico. Yes, of course, I'm so awesome. So I'm integrated to the society.
Yes.
But you know what? I think this is a very moment for you, Laura, that you need to keep to take this opportunity to get yourself known in my country, in Mexico. And I think you already love in the country. You already have a Mexican husband. And just in the same way that I love Denmark, to be honest. And there are things that the culture is very different, but at the end, you get used to to do the things the culture of here, right? For example,
there's this thing like about being a foreigner in a country like Mexico, and for you being in Denmark, is that every single day you get to learn new things. Like every single day you wake up and you're like, oh, new food, new places, new things, new language. Like you get to broaden your mind so much more. So I think it's so cool when people move to places to learn. I think it's amazing to share cultures. I'm so lucky to be with my Mexican husband. And I'm glad to see you being happy in Denmark.
Yeah. Please tell your husband that he can learn Danish, because there is another Mexican who speaks Danish. So it's not impossible.
Oh.
He needs to be patient, especially when we ask to our Danes, like, what is the meaning of this? But what is the context? Oh my God. No, I don't want the context. I just want to know the meaning of this word. But Laura, please tell us where we can contact you. I know that you have the Instagram, The Forbidden Lamb. So for everyone who is curious to know about your content.
The TikTok is called The Forbidden Lamp. It's just in one. The Instagram is the.forbidden lamp. Yeah. And there's also a Twitter account called the number 4, Forbidden Lamp. It's all about the lamps and about them being forbidden. And it's just an old meme about a moth that I find really funny. So it started off like that. But that's where you can find me. I post daily content, and you can message me on my Instagram if you want. And if not, then just enjoy my stupid videos.
No. Thank you very much. And we wish you the best in Mexico. And tusen tak for interview. Jeg håber, vi mødes snart.
De nada. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Y gracias a todos ustedes, chicos de Yucatán con Dinamarca, bien portados. Sigan mandando sus mensajes. Esto fue una misión más y nos vemos hasta la próxima. Gracias. Chao, Laura.
Chao.